It was a crime that seemed perfect and destined to remain unsolved if not for the incredible stupidity of one of the participants. The events unfolded on January 23, 2004, in a small town called Pic Rivera, a suburb of Los Angeles. Sergeant Kevin Lloyd was conducting a routine patrol when he received a report of a murder. Being the closest to the scene, he was the first to arrive at the parking lot near Ed's liquor store. The evening darkness was broken only by Christmas lights on the store's roof and a lone street light across the road. The victim was 23-year-old John Juarez, who had suffered a fatal gunshot wound to the head. At the moment of the attack, he was talking on the phone with his wife from a phone booth. His wife heard someone ask John about his origin, to which he replied, "That's none of your business." After these words, the fatal shot rang out. A store witness confirmed that a young Latino man had approached John. After the shooting, the killer quickly got into a waiting car, which immediately disappeared. No one managed to remember the license plate, but it became clear that at least 2 people were involved in the crime. One was the shooter, and the other was the driver of the car they used to flee the crime scene. The investigation had few leads. John Juarez lived an ordinary life as a bus driver, raising a 3-year-old daughter with his wife. There were no signs that the murder could be connected to his environment. Everything pointed to either a failed robbery or a random confrontation with local gang members. Finding the perpetrators seemed almost impossible. The case gradually became a cold case. During this time, the sergeant who first arrived at Juarez's murder scene was promoted to lieutenant and transferred from patrol to detective work. In 2008, for years after the tragedy at the liquor store, Detective Kevin Lloyd was investigating a routine robbery. While browsing the police database of criminal photographs, the detective suddenly froze in front of one image. Instantly, memories from 4 years ago flooded back. Ed's liquor store, holiday illumination, the street lamp. The photograph triggered these long-forgotten memories. On the screen was the face of a man named Anthony Garcia. His record showed no serious offenses, only a citation for driving without a license. Typically, such a minor violation wouldn't result in a photo being added to the database. But Garcia was suspected of connections with the local Rivera 13 gang, so the police decided to add his photo to the database just in case. Rivera 13 was a small street gang with about 200 members, operating exclusively within Pico Rivera, a suburb of Los Angeles. Anthony Garcia's photograph triggered such vivid memories for Detective Lloyd that on the same day, he went to Ed's liquor store, the site of the murder 4 years earlier. After visiting the crime scene, Lloyd became convinced that Anthony Garcia definitely possessed key information about John Juarez's murder. Garcia was detained the next day. However, a logical question arises. How did the detective manage to link the suspect to a 4-year-old crime simply by looking at his photograph? The answer was stunning and bordered on the incredible. On Anthony Garcia's body, a tattoo was discovered that precisely reproduced the crime scene. On his chest was an image of the very liquor store with Christmas lights, the distinctive street lamp, and even a poster with the inscription Rivera. Notably, neither the garlands nor the poster existed at the time of the tattoo's discovery. They were present only on the night of Juarez's murder. The tattoo also included an unusual element, a helicopter shooting at peanut-shaped figures. What was behind the scene? Anthony Garcia's nickname was Chopper, meaning helicopter. In the criminal world, especially in the Rivera 13 gang to which Garcia belonged, opponents were called pinatmen. The depicted scene demonstrated how Chopper, Anthony Garcia, committed the murder of such a pinatman near the liquor store. Notably, a tattoo on his neck read Rivera Kills. It was these tattoos that triggered a sense of déjà vu for Detective Lloyd. Apparently, Garcia had mistakenly taken Juarez for a member of a rival gang, which led to the conflict and subsequent murder. In reality, Juarez was an ordinary bus driver with no connection to the criminal world. Naturally, a tattoo alone was insufficient for pressing charges. the following steps were taken to gather more substantial evidence. Although Garcia was initially detained on a minor shoplifting charge, this was part of a carefully planned operation. In the holding cell, he was placed with another supposed member of the Rivera 13 gang. In reality, the cellmate was an undercover police officer equipped with recording equipment. During a casual conversation, Garcia, unsuspecting, boasted about the murder of John Juarez, committed 4 years earlier. The obtained confession practically guaranteed a conviction, but the investigation did not stop there. Law enforcement managed to identify the second participant in the crime, Robert Armia, a member of the same Rivera 13 gang, who was driving the car from which Garcia fled on that fateful day. Armia's testimony in court against his former accomplice definitively eliminated any chances for Anthony Garcia to avoid just punishment. At the trial, an emotional testimony from John Juarez's widow resonated deeply. Addressing the killer, she spoke bitter words of thanks for his tattoo, which ultimately helped solve the crime, but refused to forgive him. The court sentenced Anthony Garcia to 65 years in prison, and his accomplice Robert Armia to 20 years of imprisonment. Two aspects of this story are particularly striking. First, the incredible stupidity of the criminal, who essentially turned himself in by getting a tattoo depicting the murder he committed. Second, the amazing coincidence. The same detective who originally worked the crime scene accidentally saw a photograph with the incriminating tattoo years later. The probability of such a confluence of circumstances seems vanishingly small. This case serves as a vivid example that reality sometimes surpasses the most incredible fiction. And that even years later, a crime can be solved thanks to what seems like an insignificant detail or random chance. Anthony Garcia's story shows how a single thoughtless decision can define a person's entire future, and how justice can triumph in the most unexpected ways. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and support the channel by subscribing. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to never miss my next video. Thanks for watching.